Lucie, what do you miss most about your mom and your dad?
Their honesty. They were very honest people. They would always tell me the truth. It used to drive me crazy as a kid, but now that I'm an old lady, I feel like that's exactly what we need.
Lucille Ball was a force to be reckoned with. A groundbreaking actress and comedian, she became a household name thanks to her iconic role in I Love Lucy. Her on-screen charm and talent made her a legend, and her movie career was nothing short of spectacular. But while millions laughed along with her on TV, few knew the heartbreak she faced in her personal life, especially in her marriage. Behind the cameras and the laughs, things weren't as picture-perfect as they seemed. Now, decades later, the truth is finally coming to light. Lucille Ball's daughter, Lucie Arnaz, has revealed what really went on behind the scenes, what her father, Desi Arnaz, did when he thought no one was watching. Join us as we uncover the hidden chapters of Lucille Ball's life, the love, the lies, and the legacy that still fascinates fans to this day. Simpler beginnings. Lucille Ball always had a thing for boys who didn't follow the rules. She liked the ones who talked back, who didn't care what anyone thought. That edge, that spark, always pulled her in. Maybe it was a hint of the restlessness she carried herself, or maybe it was just the thrill of the unpredictable. Whatever it was, it stuck with her, and it was that same kind of magnetism that seemed to follow her into her first marriage. Lucille was born on August 6, 1911, at 69 Stewart Avenue in Jamestown, New York. Her parents, Henry Had Ball and Desiree Dee Dee Hunt, were young, religious, and always on the move. Her father worked for Bell Telephone, which meant frequent relocations across the country. The Balls were Baptists, and Lucille's family tree ran deep in early American soil, with roots tracing back to English settlers and the occasional French, Irish, and Scottish thread woven in. Among her ancestors were names like Elder John Crandall and Edmund Rice, men who helped build the foundations of the colonies. Lucille's childhood was shaped by motion, and then, all at once, by stillness. In 1915, while the family was living in Michigan, her father died suddenly of typhoid fever. He was just 27. Lucie was 3 years old. She remembered almost nothing from the day, just a bird trapped inside the house, beating its wings against the walls. The image haunted her, and she never shook her fear of birds. After his death, Dee Dee moved back to New York, pregnant with her second child, Fred. They settled in Celeron, a lakeside village near Jamestown. It was a place full of noise and energy in the summers, with tourists packing into its amusement park, Celeron Park. Lucie loved it. The boardwalk, the ballroom, the vaudeville stage, it was all magic to a child hungry for escape. The family lived at 59 West 8th Street with Dee Dee's parents and a rotating cast of relatives, including Lucie's cousin Cleo. The two were close, growing up more like sisters than cousins, and Cleo would later become a constant in Lucie's professional life, even producing some of her shows. But comfort was short-lived. 4 years after her father's death, Dee Dee married Edward Peterson. When she and Edward left to find work, Lucie and Fred were left in the care of his parents, a strict Swedish couple with harsh rules and no patience for vanity. They had only one mirror in the house, and when Lucie was caught looking at herself in it, they scolded her harshly. That time, she later said, left a mark. At 12, Lucie got her first real taste of performance. Her stepfather was involved in a Shriners group putting together a stage show, and he encouraged her to audition. She joined the chorus line, and just like that, the stage had her. For the first time, she felt seen. By 1927, things took another turn. The family lost their home and most of their belongings in a legal dispute. They moved into a small apartment in Jamestown, starting over once again. Lucille's career. At 14, Lucille Ball fell for a man her mother couldn't stand. Johnny DeVita was 21, rough around the edges and known around town for getting into trouble. Lucie was smitten. Her mother, Dee Dee, hoped the infatuation would pass, but it didn't, not on its own. So she tried something drastic. Lucie had always shown an interest in performing, and Dee Dee figured it was her best shot at pulling her daughter away from Johnny's orbit. Despite the family's tight finances, she sent Lucie to New York in 1926 to study at the John Murray Anderson School for the Dramatic Arts. It sounded glamorous on paper, but Lucie hated it. She felt awkward and out of place. The other students, including a young Bette Davis, seemed to float through the experience while Lucie stumbled. "All I learned in drama school was how to be frightened," she later said. Her teachers weren't subtle. They didn't think she had what it took. But Lucie wasn't the type to quit just because someone told her she wouldn't make it. In 1928, she returned to New York with something to prove. She started modeling for Hattie Carnegie, one of the city's top fashion names. Carnegie told her to bleach her hair blonde, and she did. That job taught her how to move with elegance, even if the glamour was just for show. "Hattie taught me how to slouch properly in a $1,000 hand-sewn sequin dress and how to wear a $40,000 sable coat as casually as rabbit," Lucie recalled. Just as her career was beginning to take shape, rheumatic fever knocked her down. She was sidelined for nearly 2 years. When she got back on her feet, she headed straight for New York again in 1932, taking whatever work she could find, modeling, promotions, even handing out cigarettes as the Chesterfield Girl. She changed her name to Diane Belmont and tried Broadway, landing minor roles in chorus lines. But she was fired almost as quickly as she was hired, from Earl Carroll's Vanities, from a touring company of Rio Rita and others. The rejections stung, but she kept showing up. In 1933, she snagged a tiny uncredited role in Roman Scandals, one of the chorus line Goldwyn Girls alongside Eddie Cantor and Gloria Stewart. It was enough to get her to Hollywood, and once she was there, she didn't look back. By 1936, things were looking up. She landed a part in Hey Diddle Diddle, a Broadway hopeful comedy about 3 young women trying to make it in Hollywood. Lucie played Julie Tucker, a roommate navigating a mess of producers and actors who couldn't get out of their own way. Reviews were good, but the production hit a wall when its lead actor Conway Turrell fell gravely ill. Creative disagreements halted any chance of the show reaching New York, and it closed within a week in Washington, D.C. With the stage on pause, Lucie turned to radio to make ends meet and build an audience. Slowly but surely, she was finding her rhythm. Then came The Big Street in 1942 opposite Henry Fonda, her first real breakout on screen. The next year, she landed a role meant for Ann Sothern in Dewberry Was a Lady. When Sothern passed on it, Lucie stepped in, no small thing since the two were close friends off-screen. The roles kept coming. She played herself in Best Foot Forward, 1943, starred in Lover Come Back and The Dark Corner in 1946, and in 1947, led lured as a dance hall girl caught up in a murder case. In 1948, she found something that felt like home. CBS cast her as Liz Cooper, a quirky, unpredictable wife in the radio sitcom My Favorite Husband. It was a hit. They had to change the character's last name, originally Cugat, because the band leader Xavier Cugat threatened to sue. But the role, and the chemistry she brought to it, would be the seed of something even bigger. After the success of My Favorite Husband, CBS saw potential in Lucille Ball for television. They approached her about adapting the show for the small screen, but Lucie had a condition. She would only do it if her real-life husband, Desi Arnaz, played her on-screen spouse. The network hesitated. A Cuban band leader and a fiery American redhead as a couple? They weren't sure audiences would buy it, so Lucille and Desi set out to prove them wrong. But before we get ahead of ourselves, how did Desi and Lucille meet? How did Lucille and Desi meet? In 1940, Lucille Ball was 28 and already known in Hollywood for her wit, her roles, and her no-nonsense attitude. Desi Arnaz, on the other hand, was 23, a Cuban musician fresh off a Broadway run. The two met on the set of Too Many Girls. Lucille was one of the film's stars, and he was part of the band. No one expected much to happen between the two beyond the project. Lucie usually went for older, more grounded men. Desi, on the other hand, was younger, constantly surrounded by music, women, and late nights. And although no one expected something to come out of their meeting, something definitely did. The two clicked and fast. At the time, Desi was already engaged to someone else, but that didn't stop him from pursuing something with Lucille. Despite her instincts, Lucie fell for Desi hard. From the start, she went all in. Friends remember how attentive she was to him. If he was uncomfortable, she adjusted. If he wanted something, she got it. It surprised us, actress Ruta Lee recalled. Lucie was tough, but with Desi, she bent. When filming ended, they went back to their separate lives. Lucie to promotion, Desi to his band, and the nightlife that came with it. The distance wore on them, but they still managed. Then everything turned messy when Lucie found out Desi had seen his ex, Betty Grable. Furious, she stormed into the house he shared with his mother and called him a Cuban son of a bitch. Desi's solution to Lucille's outbursts was marriage. 6 months after meeting, the two eloped in November 1940. But still, that didn't fix much. Desi kept touring. Even when he was home, he'd roll in at 3 or 4 a.m. Lucie was getting up around that time for work. "We just can't keep meeting in the Sepulveda tunnel," she once joked to her publicist, Charles Pomerantz. Still, she tried to make it work. She got pregnant almost immediately and told friends, "I finally had him where I wanted him," for a couple of days. But pregnancy didn't come easy. Lucie had multiple miscarriages, each one a private blow. In 1944, tired of the cheating and the drinking, she filed for divorce and the two separated, but not for long. Eventually, they started talking, not just as husband and wife, but as creative partners. They realized if they wanted to stay together, their lives couldn't be separate anymore. So they made a decision. They'd build something together, something bigger than either of them. That decision would lead to I Love Lucie and a complicated legacy of love, comedy, betrayal, and loyalty the world is still trying to understand. The turning point, however, came when CBS offered to turn Lucie's successful radio show, My Favorite Husband, into a television series. Lucie agreed to come on, but she had one condition. Desi had to play her on-screen husband. The network pushed back. Desi's thick Cuban accent didn't fit the mold of what they thought American audiences wanted, but Lucie was determined and smart. So the couple hit the road in the summer of 1951, touring as a vaudeville act to prove their chemistry worked in front of live audiences. Lucie played the same kind of lovable troublemaker audiences knew from radio, a wife desperate to sneak her way into her husband's act. Desi played the charming but exasperated bandleader. It was magic. Crowds loved them. CBS couldn't argue with the cheers, so they gave I Love Lucie a green light. The show premiered on October 15, 1951. It ran for 6 years, ending on May 6, 1957. What it became was much bigger than just a sitcom. It turned Lucille Ball into a household name, reshaped the TV industry, and gave Lucie a way to try to hold her marriage together. They didn't just star in the show, they owned it. Lucie and Desi formed Desilu Productions, the first independent TV production company of its kind. Desi, always sharper behind the scenes than most gave him credit for, pushed CBS to shoot the show on film, not live broadcast, and secured the rights to all the episodes. At a time when reruns didn't even exist, he was already thinking ahead. For the money, sure, but also, reportedly, so their children would have something lasting. He would later sell the episodes back to CBS for millions. By 1961, Desilu had made over $5 million. In the middle of all this professional momentum, Lucie gave birth to their first child, Lucie, just 3 months before the show premiered. Friends say she believed motherhood would hold Desi closer to home, and for a while it worked. Some of Desi's womanizing was alleviated from the moment little Lucie was born, said biographer Bart Andrews. Then came the show. I Love Lucie premiered in October 1951. Within months, 40 million Americans were tuning in each week. It wasn't just a hit, it was a cultural earthquake. Lucie's second pregnancy with Desi Jr. was even written into the show, making her the first visibly pregnant woman on American TV. When Little Ricky was born on screen, 44 million people watched, more than had tuned in for President Eisenhower's inauguration. Behind the scenes, though, the cracks deepened. The pressures of running a studio, acting, parenting, and managing the fame began to weigh heavily. Desi, always more vulnerable than he let on, drank to keep up. Lucie, who had always given more than she got, started to break under the weight of it all. Their fights turned into silences. The trust had long been unstable. By 1960, it was over. Lucie filed for divorce after 20 years of marriage. But even after the signatures were dry and both had married other people, something between them never faded. They kept in touch. They worked together occasionally, and according to friends, they never really stopped loving each other. They spoke so lovingly of each other, you almost forgot they weren't together anymore, said actress Carol Channing. Desi died in 1986. Near the end, Lucie called him. They talked. Quietly, without cameras or scripts, Desi said what he'd probably always meant. Through every fight, every mistake, every missed chance, I love you too, honey, good luck with your show. But even though their legacy started with them, it didn't end with them. Who is Lucie Arnaz? Lucie Arnaz didn't just grow up in a famous household. She grew up in the eye of a cultural hurricane. Born on July 17, 1951, at Cedars of Lebanon Hospital in Los Angeles, she was the first child of America's most watched couple, Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz. At the time, her parents were on the verge of redefining television with I Love Lucy, and their daughter arrived just months before the show's legendary premiere. Her full name, Lucie Desiree Arnaz, echoed the grandness of the legacy she was born into. But while her parents' names were written in bright lights, Lucie's childhood was spent behind the scenes, in makeup trailers, on sound stages, and occasionally in front of the camera. She and her younger brother, Desi Jr., spent their early years in Los Angeles and then moved to New York City for a brief period around the age of 10, where they both attended St. Vincent Ferrer School before Lucie eventually enrolled at Immaculate Heart High School back in LA. By her teens, she was already stepping into the frame, sometimes literally. She began with walk-on roles on The Lucie Show, her mother's second major series, and by 1968, she had landed a proper role opposite her mom on Here's Lucy. For 6 years, she played Kim Carter, the daughter of Lucille's character Lucy Carter. It was art imitating life, with cameras rolling on a real mother-daughter dynamic that millions tuned in to watch. But Lucie didn't want to be a shadow of either parent. She wanted her own path, and starting in the mid-1970s, she carved one. She took roles that had nothing to do with Lucie or Desi, like portraying Elizabeth Short, the infamous Black Dahlia, in the NBC telefilm Who is the Black Dahlia? In 1975. That same year, she hosted a Disney special alongside Lyle Waggoner and Tommy Tune to mark the grand opening of Space Mountain in Orlando. These weren't exactly big roles, but they were hers. By the late 70s, she appeared in everything from Fantasy Island to Marcus Welby, Maryland. To Murder, she wrote. The daughter of TV royalty was proving herself as a working actress in a crowded space, taking whatever ground she could hold. In 1985, she got her own series, The Lucie Arnaz Show, a light comedy in which she played a psychologist who ran both a newspaper column and a call-in radio show. The New York Times called her always ingratiating, but the series didn't last. A decade later, she tried again with a self-titled late-night-style talk show. It didn't catch on either. Ironically, the very next year, The Rosie O'Donnell Show would debut using the same format and soar. Still, Lucie would have the last word. In 1993, she won an Emmy for Lucille and Desi, a home movie, a documentary that told the story behind the glossy covers and scripted sitcoms. It was raw, real, and filled with never-before-seen footage of her parents, warts and all. For once, it was her lens that shaped the story, and the industry took notice. It's hard to outrun a last name like Arnaz. Lucie never tried to. But what she did, over decades of quiet persistence and the occasional flash of the spotlight, was earn the right to stand next to it, not under it. Of course, no story about Lucille and Desi would be complete without talking about how the perfect marriage ended with both couples cheating on the other. The truth about the infidelities that tore the marriage apart. For 6 years, married stars Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz played a loving couple on their smash hit TV show, I Love Lucy. While some aspects of their real lives were reflected in the show, for example, the episode in which Lucie gives birth was timed to air when Ball delivered her own son, not all elements of their private lives made it into fiction. It is well documented that Arnaz cheated on Ball, something he later admitted. However, one Hollywood insider made an even bolder claim about the extent of Arnaz's infidelity. Scott Bowers, an escort to the stars, claimed that he arranged women for the I Love Lucy star at a rate of 2 or 3 per week. Bowers had started out as a gas station attendant and eventually became an escort and pimp, catering to Hollywood celebrities. According to the Daily Beast, Bowers organized secret liaisons for numerous stars, including those who were closeted and sought discretion. Bowers, who died in 2019 at the age of 96, claimed to have facilitated arrangements for major celebrities such as Katharine Hepburn, Spencer Tracy, Cary Grant, and Desi Arnaz. He shared many of these controversial accounts in his 2012 book, Full Service: My Adventures in Hollywood and the Secret Lives of the Stars, which later inspired the 2017 documentary Scotty and the Secret History of Hollywood. In an interview with the Daily Beast, Bowers stated that during the height of I Love Lucy's fame, He regularly set Arnaz up with multiple women each week. He reportedly said that Arnaz was attracted to any nice-looking woman who was open to casual sex. Bowers also recalled that Lucille Ball once confronted him at a party, accusing him of procuring women for her husband. She allegedly expressed her anger by publicly demanding to know how he dared to pimp for Desi. As Vanity Fair reported, a 1955 article in the tabloid Confidential exposed Arnaz's infidelity. The article, titled "Does Desi Really Love Lucie?" described him as an expert at philandering. It included claims that during one incident at the Beverly Hills Hotel, one of Arnaz's friends contacted what was referred to as one of Hollywood's top door-to-door dame services and ordered 2 women described as medium rare. Arnaz was reported to have dismissed concerns about his behavior by saying he didn't date other women romantically, only hired sex workers. When Ball saw the article, she reportedly confronted Arnaz on the set of I Love Lucie in front of the cast and crew. Her publicist, Charles Pomerantz, later recalled to People that it happened during a rehearsal day. She had gone into her dressing room, leaving the set in a tense silence, and eventually emerged to throw the magazine at Arnaz, allegedly saying that she could have given the tabloid even more scandalous material. In his 1977 memoir, A Book, Arnaz admitted to having cheated on Ball and claimed that she had also been unfaithful. He wrote that as their love life worsened, their fighting increased, their intimacy decreased, and they both became increasingly unhappy. He explained that he worked more and drank more and by that time had not shared the master bedroom with Ball for almost a year. It was then, he said, that he began to seek fulfillment elsewhere, and claimed Ball did the same. Ball and Arnaz eventually divorced in 1960, ending their 20-year marriage. According to their daughter, Lucie Arnaz, the separation improved their relationship. In a 2020 interview with Closer, she said that their divorce was the best thing that happened to them and described it as very successful. She emphasized that they remained kind to one another, never spoke badly of each other in front of their children, and stayed close friends until the end of their lives. Both actors eventually remarried. Arnaz married Edith Mack Hirsch in 1963 and remained with her until her death in 1985. He passed away the following year in 1986. Ball married Gary Morton in 1961 and was with him until her death in 1989. What did Lucie Arnaz say? Nearly 60 years after Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz's split, their daughter, Lucie Arnaz, opened up about her parents' difficult marriage and what she described as a horrible divorce. In an interview with Closer Weekly, Lucie, who was 67 at the time, explained that her parents were constantly fighting while she and her brother were growing up. She admitted that there had been a lot of anger and screaming during that time, all of which were too much for her and her brother. Reflecting on their separation, Lucie described the divorce as horrible and also mentioned the presence of alcoholism in the marriage. She expressed that she had wished those issues had never existed. While she emphasized that there was no abuse in the household, she acknowledged that the family had endured some very hard experiences, which she believed were the reasons why her parents could not stay together. A new documentary titled Lucie and Desi explored the intimate details of Ball and Arnaz's relationship. Directed by Amy Poehler, the film featured interviews with people who knew the couple personally, including their daughter, Lucie. For the project, Lucie provided Poehler with access to never-before-heard recordings. During an interview for the documentary, Lucie revealed the final words exchanged between her parents. She recounted that when Desi Arnaz became critically ill with lung cancer, she had called her mother and informed her that he might not be conscious for much longer. Lucie recalled telling her mother that if she wanted to say anything, that moment was the right time. Lucie then held the phone to Arnaz's ear. According to her recollection in the film, her mother repeatedly said the words, "I love you," several times in a row. Lucie remembered that her father responded by telling Ball that he loved her too, calling her honey. Arnaz died a couple of days later while in Lucie's arms. He had been in a coma in the days leading up to his death, and Lucie noted that aside from herself and a nurse, Ball was the last person Arnaz ever spoke to. According to Lucie, the final conversation between her parents occurred on November 30th, 1986, the anniversary of their wedding. Arnaz passed away just 2 days later, on December 2nd, 1986. About a month before that final phone call, Lucie said in Lucille and Desi that her mother had visited Arnaz. At that point, he had chosen to stop further treatment for his lung cancer and was staying at Lucie's home in Del Mar, California. Lucie shared that the uncertainty around how much time Arnaz had left frightened her mother. She recalled doing something whimsical during that visit. She set up a television and played old I Love Lucie episodes so that her parents could watch them together. Although she wasn't in the room with them, she said she listened from outside the door and could hear them laughing together. Lucie said that after the visit, Ball left and went home. She told her daughter that she had cried the entire way back. Ball passed away approximately 2.5 years later, on April 26, 1989. Did you ever watch I Love Lucie? If you did you enjoy it? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. If you enjoyed the video, like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Also, click the following video on your screen and you will enjoy it.